Okay, I'm going to continue sharing the screen here. So remember, okay, this is the way we should try to write, especially in the technical literature. There's no space for blah, blah, blah. Just, you need to say that, that's all what you need to say. So don't start piling up information, especially in the introduction. Okay, so let's go to the introduction. This is the 3 parts that we need to consider. Ms. Lopez, would you please read it? Ms. Lopez, are you there?
Yeah. An introduction should contain the following 3 parts. Background. In this part, you have to make clear that the context is. Okay,
so this is like in general, for example, you know that an instructor can fail, right? Things like that, very general. The loading, boundary conditions are very complex, but not too much, because we know these things, but this is just an introduction. Okay, go on, the problem.
The problem, if there was no problem, there should be no reason for reading a report, and definitely no reason for reading it.
It. Okay, so here, this is the problem. What's the problem that we want to solve here? For example, Mr. Ruiz, what would you say is the problem that you have right now? The problem is the COVID? No, I'm talking about finite elements. What's the problem right now? We're here. Mr. Ruiz, can you hear me? Mr. Ruiz, there is a raised hand. Help me with that. Somebody's raising his. Mr. Nevares, yes, there is a question here.
Yes, to be certain that the structure won't fail.
I'm sorry, say that again, please.
The problem is the uncertainty of the problem of the structure to fail.
Exactly. That's the problem. And not only that, but you have to be a little bit more precise, because the problem, it's not only that. The problem is that we want to know if this structure is safe, but also the problem is that there is not many options to analyze this. Okay, because it's a very complex structure. Okay, so that's the problem. Okay. Ms. Lopez, please continue.
Yeah, the proposed solution differentiates from similar projects and process objectives.
No. Proposed.
Pardon. So proposed objectives.
Okay, so here, okay, you say this is a little bit background. This is what you try to solve. Okay, and this is the problem that you finally try to solve. And here, what you propose. So it's a good idea if you differentiate from similar projects. Okay, well, in your case, it's not that important, because this is a given project. But in general, for example, in the report from Engineer Isaac, one of the very important things that we have to say here is that we have to mention what other people have done. Okay, similar projects, but not quite the same. Or maybe it's the same problem, but they have applied a different approach, a different method. And finally, what you would like to get. So here, after all of this, you propose something. Okay, we're going to analyze. This is the objectives. So you explain them. And then you don't write specific objectives. So we can say, for example, as part of this, we need to determine first this and that, and then we're going to do this and that. See, you're not saying specific objectives, but basically that's what you are explaining, okay? Are you clear? Are we clear with this, please? Are we clear with this? No questions? Good.
Doctor,
Yeah.
I have a question. Good morning.
Good morning.
What do you say differentiate from similar projects? Are you mean with the other projects or
In your case, this is not a problem because in general, in your case, I am assigning you a project, and I suspect that even though this is it's a project that probably somebody else did it before, okay, we're assuming that there is some individuality in this work, and that's the reason I'm assigning to you, okay. The problem is that what happens, for example, let's suppose in the case of engineer Isaac, we're trying to analyze how it will fail completely this plate when it supports a compressive load. Isn't it, Isaac?
Yes, doctor.
Yeah, and here, because of corrosion, there is a reduction in thickness. Okay, there is a similar work. And they have this plate, okay? This plate, but now they consider a hole. So this is very similar to ours, but not quite the same. So what method did you use for this? What results did you obtain for that? And things like that. This is something that you need to explain here. And then it's like saying, okay, these people did this, were successful, and all of that. We're going to do this. So you're saying that your contribution has a space. It's different from the other projects. Mr. Carrion?
Okay.
In your
It's
case,
just
there is no need because I'm assigning you this work and this project, and I try to be certain that everybody has different projects, so you cannot copy directly from the literature and present it as it was yours. Okay, that's the idea. Okay.
Okay, doctor. Thank you.
Okay, no problem.
Doctor,
yep.
Sorry, should I differentiate from the designer of this structure?
From the what?
From the designer of this structure. I mean, maybe
no, because
not
usually you don't, the designer, at least at this level. See, the idea is this, okay? Somebody prepared the design at this level, right? It's conceptual. What's the next level of design? Isaac, help me. Conceptual, and then comes?
Evaluate.
No. I'm talking about the spiral, the ship design spiral. Conceptual design, and then comes detailed design. Okay. Somebody prepares a detailed design of the structure, right? But still, you have to go in more detail in order to analyze these pieces of this module of the structure. That's what you're doing. So it's like taking the next step after the detailed design. No, I'm sorry, the preliminary design. So you do conceptual, then you preliminary is what you saw yesterday in some of the projects, right? The 3 design projects. And then you go on in more detail. So this is like a detailed design. So no, it's more detail. Evaris?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, no problem. So this is something that we have explained before. Remember that the basic unit of the reduction is the paragraph. So we have to write a paragraph in a very consistent way. So here, a paragraph, it's each part of the manuscript, and you say that it starts with a capital letter and ends with a point and a part at the end. For example, here you see that this is capital letter, capital, shoot. You see that you have a capital letter here, and you have a point and a part. So this is a paragraph. Okay? Exposition of a single subject. Complete sense. So it's the single subject and completely explain it. So we have to be careful because in many cases we put many things together and ends up with a very difficult to understand paragraph. Okay? So it's very difficult, people. It's very difficult to explain something with a single sentence. It is very difficult to explain something with a single sentence. So I would expect that if you present a paragraph, starting with a capital, ending with a point and a part, here, I'm expecting to find maybe 3, maybe 4, at least 2 sentences. If you write a paragraph with a single sentence, usually that means that it is not describe it, explain it in a complete sense, because it's very difficult to explain something with a single sentence. You are warned now. So there are 3 parts in this paragraph, right? One is the topic sentence. Okay, Mr. Valles, would you please read this, the topic sentence?
It is the most general sentence in a paragraph. That is, there are not many details in the sentence.
Details
In the sentence.
Okay.
Thank you, doctor.
Don't say
But introduce. But introduce.
Here. What do you have here?
But introduces.
Exactly. Go on.
An overall idea that you want to discuss later in the paragraph.
Okay, so it's the general idea of what you want to discuss in this paragraph. So it's very important. Okay, when I try to write these things, prepare a report, for example, what I do is that I start identifying main ideas. Main idea, and so on. Then I take this main idea and I write the topic sentence. So I try to transmit, okay, what I'm going to say in this paragraph. It's a general thing. So you don't need to give many details in the first sentence. Okay, then it comes the details. Okay, so in a paragraph, you have first topic sentence, then supporting sentences. Go on, Mr. Valles. Mr. Valles, go on.
Supporting sentences.
Go on.
Supporting sentences. After reading a topic sentences, several questions usually appear in the reader's mind. The reader should mind. The reader should then expect that the rest of the paragraph will give and answer to this question.
Answer to this question. So here in the topic sentence, you give a general and overall idea. And immediately you have a general idea what to expect. But immediately you think, okay, I need to listen to this, that, and that detail. Those are the supporting sentences. So inside the same paragraph, you present these details. And finally, Mr. Valles.
The concluding sentence summarizes the information that has been presented.
Okay, so that's the three parts of a paragraph. Okay, topic, very general, the details, and concluding. In some cases, this is not needed. Okay, you don't need but usually at the beginning of at the end of especially at the end of the certain part, okay, of the report. For example, you go from the results and then go to an analysis of results, right? The last paragraph, usually you need a concluding sentence, okay? So but it's not necessarily, but these two definitely, yes. Especially the first one. For me, this is extremely important. Okay, so please, from this, okay, at least 2 or 3 sentences forming one paragraph. This is an example taken. I forgot to include the reference. I'm sorry. But yeah, this is a very nice example. Mr. Carrillo, would you please read it?
Example. My hometown is famous for several amazing natural
features. Oh, that's the topic sentence. So he is telling you that his hometown is very well known for some amazing features. So I'm expecting, okay, to receive information about what are these natural features. And I'm expecting them to be amazing. Not one, several. Go on.
First, it is not noted for the Whittingham River.
Go on. This is a comma only.
Okay. Which is very wide and very beautiful.
Go on.
Also, on the other side of the town is Weather Hills, which is in usuality because it is very steep. The three amazing. The third amazing feature is a big old tree.
Okay, go on. Just a second. Okay. I'm sorry. Continue.
This tree starts 200 feet tall and is probably about 600 years old.
Okay, so these are the details. So you say 1, 2, 3 details. Those are the natural features. More than one, very nice about this hometown. And finally, we go complete, read it, Mr. Carrillo.
This is 3 landmarks and truly amazing and make my hometown a famous place.
So this is the remarks. So this one here, you can take them out. If you take these 3, there will be no information. I mean, I know that your town, I'm from Quevedo, is very famous, but okay, but why is that famous? Unless you give me detail. And once you explain these details, yes, I can agree with you. This is really nice. Questions, people? Questions? Questions? No questions? I owe you the reference here. Hopefully for the next version of this, I will remember to include the reference. This is, can somebody, but this is Spanish, you can read it. And you can immediately see that there is a capital letter here and end up in a point and a part. So this is a paragraph. Any comment from this paragraph?
There are only one sentence.
Exactly. And a very long sentence. Very long sentence. This is from a thesis. I don't remember the faculty, but that doesn't matter. The thing is that this is an extremely long sentence. And this one here is about the same. Okay? Se implementaron mejoras a un concreto convencional disminuyendo la relación con la adición de funcional artificial conocida como it's very long. And this is typical of the way we Latins write. Okay? So we have to be careful because in these cases, the two are paragraphs and the two are composed by one single extremely long sentence. So I'm going to check on that. You have to try to avoid very long sentences. It's busy, okay? For example, you can imagine, for example, that up to here, you could put a point and make a better connection between these two sentences and things like that. Okay, but please try to avoid very long sentences because it makes it very difficult. When you have a sentence, there are usually one main verb. No, not usually. There is a main verb, right? But when you use a very long sentence, you have many verbs. Of course, there is a main verb and there are many secondary verbs. The problem is that sometimes it's difficult to pick up the main idea because there are many verbs. So the best way to avoid these confusions is to write with short sentences, or at least not too long sentences. We keep go on with the contents in the body. This is a recommendation. You have to avoid to present immediately after a title or subtitle, a table or formula. I'm sorry, a title or subtitle. You have to avoid to present a table, or formula, or figure. For example, here, there was a project that I asked to prepare. Okay. And you see, this is the title of the, I don't know, there was a sub-chapter here. And here, you go directly to an equation. So here, you need to include an introductory sentence. So you need to include an introductory sentence here before the equation. Similarly, for the next case, in this case, there was another work. I think it was from mechanical engineering. I'm sorry, from electrical engineering. And it's always a good idea to include here an introductory sentence before this table is presented. Okay. Results. Try to use tables, figures in order to summarize, because that is a lot of information. In some cases, if you present a table, you don't need to present a figure. Okay, in many cases, you have a table and a figure. That's writing the same, presenting the same information. As I said here, when you present a table or figure, try to explain them. And this is something which is very important, okay? And this is something that when you present a work to be published, there's something that the reviewer checks. You present a table or a figure, they have to be explained in the text. Okay, so you present 10 tables or 10 figures, whatever, the 10, so you have to find something which says fig 1, fig 2, fig 3, something like that in the text, which explains that figure or that table. Okay, try to check if you can compare something, right? And see if there is some differences or there's some relationships. And try to explain what you expect, why you think that's the result. Yes, there could be some negative results. For example, in some cases, you can find that you needed more refinement or strange results, a very large level of stresses, things like that. Okay, and this is very important, okay? And then you have to try to explain them. Okay, don't try to hide your negative results. Conclusions. My suggestions, this is very difficult to write, but we have to do it. This is something that I learned from Maria Jose. She was preparing a proposal for her research. And they don't do, in science, they don't do a specific objective. They write questions. Okay, so they talk about the question I would like to answer is this. And they discuss about if this question is well presented, well established, sound, and things like that. And when you present a question, the conclusion is basically the answer to these questions. Okay, so my suggestion is think of the specific objectives that you presented in the introduction. Try to convert that to questions. And in the conclusions, answer to those questions. For example, can you imagine one question for your specific objective, Mr. Galarza?
Good morning, doctor.
What would be
Excuse me,
one of the specific objectives in your work?
Determine if the structure fails.
Okay. Possibility of failure. Okay. Possibility of failure. Okay, that's. So can we change this into a question? Can you change that into a question?
Let me think.
Easy. Does the structure go on?
Does the structure fails, or does the structure does the stress of the structure is over the yield stress?
Yeah. And now we go to the conclusions. And you have to consider that you have analyzed not one, but at least 2 or 3 loading conditions. And you have to complete the thing. Considering all the loading conditions, Okay? In this way, this is something that we always check. Okay? You have to be consistent with the results. For example, in this case, estos resultados. Now, in this case, for example, this is very general. I would put it, which one? Okay? So, for example, los resultados shown in a certain figure or table, whatever. Confirm this. these results. In some cases, for example, many students write something like this. I took this from a project in numerical analysis a long time ago. Yeah, but you did not do it, so you cannot conclude because you don't have the evidence. You don't have results about this new partition. And finally, bibliography. This is something that we need to insist. It's similar to what we said about the figures and tables, right? If you present a bibliography, okay, that means that that has to be included as a reference in the text. There has to be cited in the text. Okay, so if you include 10 references, then I'm going to check if all of these 10 references are cited inside the text. So if you don't use them, don't include them. If you include them, then you have to cite. See, I'm going to take this opinion as is recommended by this author and things like that. Yeah, but you're using it. That's all what you need to include as reference. Okay. Now, as I said here, the format of their bibliography, that depends on the publication, right? In your case, you're going to use the APA format, so that I'm going to check if you write it correctly in that format. Okay, so the APA format to specify bibliography has a certain format, and inside the text you have to cite these references in a certain way. So you have to check it. People, any questions about any of these things that I have just explained? Any questions? Okay, we're gonna have a 5-minute break. Miss Vera, do you have any question? I see that you're...
Yes, doctor, I have a question. You said that we maybe could compare some of our results with another or some other project about similarities in the sections or the sheet, where that path should go. In the analysis of results?
Yeah, in the analysis of results, definitely. In the analysis of results. Okay, what you can do is, in the introduction, okay, you can say something about that reference. Because probably if you want to compare, that means that that work, it's similar in certain way to yours. So you can include that in the introduction. Okay, and then when you discuss results, then you can go on in detail. This is what I obtained. This is what this reference found, and the two make sense, or they are different, and you try to explain the difference. So in your case, this, in that case, that, and at the end, you consider that your results are correct, and at the end, you conclude. Yep. Thank you for your observation.
Okay, doctor, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, people, so let's have a 5-minute break, and when we return, we have the final words. Okay.